Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We are Jackrabbit Illustrated. As always, we are brought to you by our title sponsor, Kubota Dealers of South Dakota, with 9 locations across the great state of South Dakota. There's always a place near you to get into some orange equipment today. They'll help you take care of your farm, homestead, or ranch, anything else you may have in between. Homes, whatever, they've got what you need. They've got side-by-sides, they've got tractors, they've got snow blowers, they've got everything to get you taken care of. They've also got parts and service at every one of the locations in the great state of South Dakota, so you're always near help if you do have an issue, which is pretty rare with the Kubota Dealers South Dakota. As always, I'm excited to be with the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host, Mr. Zach Board. Welcome to us, joining us from, I'm going to say the backseat of a car because it's funnier, but I don't know, from a car. He's making the extra effort to be a part of us today. So what's shaking, Zach? How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, I guess, last week was your turn to have a little bit of a interesting situation. This week I'm coming live from my glorious minivan. It was pheasant opener, obviously, for those who so celebrate. And first time I've actually got a chance to ever really do this with my family because obviously, the whole always constantly doing the TV bits and yeah, this was my new deal, and had a chance to kind of finally go with them. Can't say I actually did any hunting because, unfortunately, the timing of this, I didn't really have time to get a license or do much real training to actually shoot. So I don't know if anybody wants a gun in my hand just yet. I've always anticipated the best way to probably hunt would be to picture people I didn't like at my my job or just in general, just picture that being them and then pull the trigger. So that's kind of my strategy moving forward.
No.
Got a few of those. I can just in the that's just the strategy for the hunting part of it. When I see a bird in the air, I'm picturing them, not for real. Just
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't actually get to hunt this time. That'll probably be next time. I gotta get a little bit better, a little more. I got a little more time now to hopefully learn how to shoot. So which could be bad news for everybody else.
Well, let me tell you this, Zach, as someone who has hunted since before he can probably remember and had a firearm of some sort in his hands, I cannot endorse enough to anyone that if you are going to go hunting and everything else, it is most important to be familiar with the weapon that you are using and with the safety rules. So I do tip my hat to you on that instead of just jumping out there with a firearm and going, I'm going to go do this. So hat tip to you on that because that is important, more important than anybody knows. I think everybody, most people at least know who are hunters know how important that is. So hat tip to you on that. As always, it's the South Dakota pheasant opener this weekend, and ideally the Jacks were on the road, which is fantastic. I'm sure Tyler Merriam's numbers on the radio did incredible this week because of all the people happily out pheasant hunting. Hopefully everyone you were with limited out on birds. I know in South Dakota, for those of you who are joining us on the FCS Fans Nation radio, if you're anywhere where deer hunting or elk hunting is huge and that's what everybody and their brother does, pheasant hunting in South Dakota is that version of that. Everybody's out walking the fields in orange. I did not today. I don't have a dog and I'm lazy. I'm not walking around by myself trying to find a bird in the brush. But it's borderline religion in South Dakota. So that's exciting. I'm glad you were able to take in your first weekend of that. Hopefully you're able to take in some more to come. On the game
Be a little
this
more
weekend,
active in the future, like you said. Hopefully.
Right. It's always a good thing, and you know what? Hunting is one of those things where even practice, if you're just shooting guns and practicing to get into it, that's fun too. I've
That's what's
never had
about
a
the
bad
hunting
time.
part too. It's about going out and sharing some stories.
Yes.
As you can tell, I'm pretty sober. There were more alcoholic beverages consumed last night prior to the the night prior to
Yes.
I went to my wife and I'm also doing this outside because we're staying with my in-laws. So much as my normal situation would be to stay inside, I really don't want to wake up my in-laws because that would put a rather fun a weekend as it's been, it would end rather on a sour note if I pissed them off. And be funny
Right.
for this. Be
That-
funny for this podcast. We do some interesting numbers, watching me probably get killed on live live on YouTube and everywhere else. But we'll save that maybe for next year.
Right. Well, you know what they say, one at a time. That's all right. Hey, we appreciate you jumping in the car even to join us. That's pretty awesome. And being courteous enough to avoid waking up your neighbors. Hopefully I don't wake up my daughters in the room next to me here as I'm talking, but that's okay. As we truck along, I'm going to take a little trip to the buffet, as one of my favorite hockey podcasts loves to say. What I did not expect a lot to talk about with a Murray State game and the Dakota Marker coming up, but oh boy, do we have things to talk about, as Chase Mason made the first drive and did not reappear on the field. Obviously, for SDSU fans, a massive piece of concern going into Marker week. You never want to lose a quarterback the caliber of Chase Mason, who, to be perfectly honest, I'll say it right now, from a throwing standpoint, I think would be the best quarterback in that matchup, throwing wise. Maybe not holistically, but as a throwing quarterback, I think he does have a leg up on old Cole Payton. But when you see him go down and don't come back, and I'm guaranteeing we're not going to know truly what Chase Mason's status is until the first snap of the game, just because with a game this big,
they're going to keep this. They're going to keep this close to the vest. I mean, I know Matt Zimmer was kind of talking about that a little bit this week. Dan,
yes.
And eventually this is all probably at some point leading to college football, although there is no the NCAA really doesn't have any power. It's not like the NFL where they can mandate stuff. The NCAA as a governing board has no real authority, but they're going to try and eventually make these coaches all release their injury reports, and it's all for the gambling. Let's just be real there. It's all
eventually.
It's all going to have to come out, but until then, we're going to play the cat and mouse games, and it's going to be, I would imagine, right up to game time. They'll try and keep that. But yeah, I'm in Moody, so I don't want anybody to necessarily come find me. But Moody.
Oh, Moody, you're not even that far from my house, then. God dang.
I can't really say I'm actually in the wood. Well, I'm not sure actually. I kind of forget what county. What is the Howard, Canova, and Salem area? And I think that's Moody, isn't it? There's Minor County.
No, it's not. Moody is right north of Minnehaha.
I think I'm in Minor. No, never mind. Minor. I had the wrong end. I think it's Minor County. I always forget. So I'm in that Howard,
Jordan Fink,
Salem, Canova era. So.
Right, Jordan Fink on the Chase Mason injury says Chase's injury is 1, serious enough that he could not play, putting next week at risk, or 2, not terrible, but playing Murray State is just pack it in for NDSU and let the defense win and the run game win it. I think that's potentially true. If you watch the touchdown, it was the first touchdown that Chase got hurt on. Really nothing crazy happened on it. Looked like someone did snag his ankle. Potentially, you've got reports of his ankle getting taped up and all these things, but it's in Murray, so there's not a lot of people there to really get good eyes on it from the stands. Like, we get a lot of comments from
the TV angle made you feel like you were in a blimp. So
that TV angle and camera work left much to be desired, but that's what happens when you end up with a student broadcast happening.
Yeah, to be fair.
There's optimistic Brendan that's like, yeah, he's probably going to be back. I do feel, I know Chase is the type of guy where you will have to staple him to the bench to stop him from getting into the Dakota Marker game. But that being said, Luke Marble came in. He was not incredible to start the game, but people have to remember he is a redshirt freshman. He's a freshman, right?
It was
his first couple drives. Right. And and we'll get into this longer depth wise. I have a lot of thoughts on that. But Overall, 13 to 21, 61.9% completion percentage, 189 yards, 9-yard average on passes, 2 touchdowns, an interception. It was a bad interception, but also a long of 46. He had a rating of 159.4. You got a freshman comes in as a backup. That's pretty okay. He did, as Adam Harms says, Marble settled in and did just fine. I think from a perspective of, hey, this guy's your future quarterback, I think you feel pretty okay as a freshman coming in and doing that first year in the program. That's exciting. Chase looked excellent the drive he was in there. He was 5 of 6, 69 yards, 11.5 yard average. No passing touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. When you look at that and then you see what the offense looked like until Marble got in a rhythm, and even when he was in a rhythm, I think that shows you the value of Chase Mason, the passer. I think that's something that's been underrated rather severely about Chase. I think the knee-jerk reaction with Chase, because he is such an athlete and he is so big and he's done so much running in the past, is he's this big running quarterback who happens to throw the ball, when the reality is Chase this year has been really a pocket passer. We know he's capable of running. He's more than capable. He does it on occasion. They do some, +1 run game with him so that they can get that extra blocker in there and things like that. But boy, there was a stark difference, especially those first couple drives where Luke came in, and you can't knock Luke on that because you're a freshman, you're on the road. You haven't even been to that many. It's only the 7th game. I don't know if he traveled with Northern Illinois. I doubt that he did.
Probably not.
Probably not. You've only had a couple of games of experience even getting into the game. You're only 7 games into a new offense as a freshman. This has to have been like a whirlwind for the kid. Even up to this point, you're starting to feel like you're settled in and there's a routine. But I mean, the kid got here in the spring, I think, and you've got a whole new coaching staff. You're meeting all these new guys, everything else. That's a lot going on. I'm pleasantly surprised with how he settled in and started to play. I do think the offensive line and running backs started to settle in and, picked up some of the slack for him. That was a big deal. There was a lot of plays watching where I will say this, the offensive line automatically gets some knee jerk. That's the offensive line's fault. There were plenty of times I saw on running plays where it was blocked up fine, but the running back was hesitant, didn't make a cut, didn't go to the hole, and danced, and then he did it for a heartbeat too long. This is collegiate football. You can't block a guy for 6 seconds. That's not a reality. You got to hit that hole and go, or it's gone. And they got swallowed up in the backfield. And to be frank, it makes the offensive line look like assholes, and it's not their fault. As a former O-lineman, that kind of irritates me sometimes.
Yeah.
I think Josiah Johnson was a revelation in the backfield when he got into the game. He looked really good. 10 carries, 58 yards, 5.8 yard average, the highest on the team. 1 touchdown, most of his carries in the second half. He looked really good. James Bassinger looked pretty good as well. Julius, he got his 25 carries, 88 yards.
Corey Blair looked all right coming back from injury.
Yeah, he looked all right. Yeah, and then he gets hurt again. Like Kevin Marshall says, they didn't bring Marble in from Northern Illinois for nothing, and I do believe that. I think overall, if you look at his game, you've got to be impressed with it. I do think his receivers did make some plays for him, like that pass to Alex Bullock, that 46-yard bomb or 43-yard bomb. That was a great catch or a great pass. Like that was on the button, but that's not an easy catch to make either. That you see that all the time.
There's good coverage on that.
Yeah, like it wasn't poorly coverage. It was a perfect throw. But when you have a perfect throw, you need somebody to make that grab. Like that hits guys in the hands who miss it because the defender's hand goes across their face or whatever. They lose concentration for a heartbeat and they drop it. And I know this sounds like a lot of glazing for playing Murray State.
Yeah.
But when you lose someone the caliber of Chase Mason, and hopefully,
changes your game plan. I mean,
right?
I can't
Oh, it's
necessarily say
huge.
it changes your game plan because it's interesting because I was doing a height and I did get a chance to actually watch quite a bit of the game. I mean, the one thing about not actually doing much hunting today was obviously I was kind of on the sidelines a little bit, so I had and you mentioned your point about Tyler Merriam's numbers doing well. Remember, this game was originally supposed to be at 6:00. They pushed it up to 1 due to the weather concerns, which did play a big role up in Terre Haute in Indiana, delaying that game for several hours after at halftime. But yeah, so I did get a chance to watch quite a bit of this, and I will say the nice thing about having that big wide camera angle is you really got to see. It was almost like an all 22 camera angle. I mean, it's like that's almost kind of the much as much as for a TV thing, you'd like to see them zoom in a little tighter. It gave you kind of a good look at everything that was going on, and yeah, I really thought when he got in Marble, you could tell I called a high school game the other night for Midwest Sports Plus. I called 3 in 24 hours, so I was kind of busy. They were all blowouts, but in the Jefferson and Rapid City Central game, Jefferson's quarterback, who's a sophomore by the name of Boston Bryant, got knocked out on the third play of that game, and he got knocked out a little more violently. Like he had a running play. He was clearly injured. Like he was favored. I don't know how bad this is. That'll be a big story going forward in high school football in South Dakota. Like he was he had to be helped off. He was favoring his leg, all that. And they bring in their backup quarterback. And my co-host is the former Augustana offensive coordinator, my color analyst, was James Schrank. And I was kind of asking, like, well, what do you do when the backup quarterback goes out? He's like, you really don't change much because you have to have if he's your backup, you have to have confidence that he's going to come in there and run the offense just as well. You know, that he's going to have, maybe not as well as your first string guy, because obviously he would be your first string guy. But if you don't have confidence in him to go in there and run the offense well, then he shouldn't be your second string guy. So clearly, and there was a pretty good competition. I mean, Jack Henry from Del Rapids was I think there were people who thought maybe he had the inside line on being the quarterback of the future, and he still might. You never know. John Bell has been around this program for a number of years now, but he's kind of that. He seems more like kind of one of those depth piece guys. He's a holder a lot of the time, so I don't want to minimize that at all. But for Marble to win this competition, they had to have confidence that he could be the guy if called upon. And certainly, like you said, you don't want to glaze too much because it is Murray State. And I mean, I made that comment a week ago. Of course, we didn't have our show, and I shared my my notes the next day. I made that comment online right as USD quickly got out to a 14-0 lead. Like, this program is another word for butt online. And I hate to bag on Murray State that it's just a rough go for them right now. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And I don't know how it's going to get any better for them. I just don't. I mean, and I love their coach. I love Jody Wright.
Well, here's the thing for them, as a ray of sunshine, if you will, for Murray State. They had to bring in, like, they had to. It wasn't like, oh, we want a bunch of transfers. They had to bring in 80 transfers this year.
Yeah.
If you can keep some of those guys going forwards, I mean, we've talked about, like, how do you measure improvement if you're Murray State, because you're so much worse than the rest of the conference. How do you measure it? You could lose 34-0 twice, 1 year to the next, and be a lot better. That happens. How do you measure that? Well, you could hear how much this game means, and also overall, I think it's something SDSU fans should probably take note of and remember when they look at results for SDSU versus these other teams. You could hear what this game meant to Murray State just to be close in the first half. You could on one hand, it's a student crew, so it's not the same quality of broadcast. But when you've got a student crew running a broadcast, you can pick some things up you wouldn't normally pick up in a broadcast a lot easier. And number one is how much it meant to that program just to hang with South Dakota State for a half. You could hear it in the incredulousness in those student announcers' voices at this is close. Oh my God, this is close. This is crazy. Oh my God. And good for them. That's terrific. Somebody mentioned earlier, let me look. Yeah, Lyndon Modine. I apologize if I said your name wrong. Says the defense was the problem for SDSU. Can't give up over 400 yards to Murray State. To be honest, when it comes to this game, when I said earlier this week, I don't care as long as they win the game, unless it's like a 7-point game. I don't care. Giving up 400 yards to Murray State, I don't care. To be frank, I just don't, because we've seen what this defense is. We've seen what they're capable of doing, and giving up 400 yards to Murray State is just a marker of a team that's been playing down to its opponents, in my opinion. I that's all that is. You can see what they've done. We know it's game 7. We know what this defense is. If this was game 2, right, then okay, we gave up 400 yards to Murray State. Game 4, oh my God, we gave up 400 yards to Murray State. This is game 7. This is one of the best defenses in the country, period, point blank, full stop. If you're worried about 400 yards to Murray State, I think you need to take a step back and look at the whole picture, because we've seen this defense over and over and over again be pretty goddamn good. I think you're putting in it's football. Football, in my opinion, is the number one most overreactionary sport in the world, because there's so few games. If you can see it in the NFL, you can see it in college. One game to the next. This team, oh my God, they suck. Oh, they're just the worst. And I know you're going to bring the Chiefs into this because I said that, but it's 1 week. Oh, they're the worst. Oh, the best. They beat the Eagles by 34. Chiefs? Well, okay, that was what last week they lost to the Panthers. Who gives a shit? And that's hypothetical. I don't even know if that's something that happened to somebody. But I think now you're game 7. You won the game by 21 points. Is that a lot against Murray State? No. With a backup quarterback, is that acceptable? Boy, to be honest, I think so on the road. I'm going to be honest with you. Was I thrilled with the defensive performance? No. You could tell they weren't locked in. They just weren't. They are that much better than Murray State's offense. But am I going to be concerned about it? No, not even a little bit. I would not. And I'm not saying Lyndon is concerned. I'm just saying as a general statement, I'm not concerned. Like, it's not something to be terribly concerned about. They've shown over and over already that they are a really good defense.
Well, on that first touchdown, watching that, 2 guys run into each other. Right. That helps free up the second one, free the guy up for the, whatever it was, 65. So some things happened. I mean, obviously, and you talk about the 400 total yards. Well, 327 was through the air, so they're not giving up anything on the ground, which again, that's fit their MO. They're a team that over the course of their ascension to becoming a national contender, they've not allowed a lot of rushing yards, but they've been maybe, even in some of their best years, they've been a little susceptible to the pass. I mean, this has never been a team that has, except for the generational team they had that went 15-0, they've had years where teams have been able to pass on them and get some good game, good teams, bad teams, you name it. So to me, I'd be more concerned if the 300 yards were okay. They ran for 200 and they passed for 200. That would be more concerning to me, because the challenge you face next week with North Dakota State, and yes, I realize Cole Payton he's playing much better. I don't want to say this is similar to Cam Miller, because we saw Cam Miller evolve and go from being kind of an average quarterback to an elite level FCS quarterback. And what we had seen of Cole Payton was basically nothing. He really hadn't played very much, except for this funky little package that they would bring him in the last couple of years, which, between what we saw with Chase Mason last year and the Cole Payton pack, I'm like, I'm kind of at the point where I don't really believe these specialized quarterback packages really work. I think they might screw with the guy more than they actually help the guy, but we're seeing Cole Payton playing better. I think before this game, before I think he threw a pick today, I think he had almost as many touchdowns as he had incompletions or something like that. I mean, it was a wild stat at one point, but I'd be more, he is one of his, I mean, what you see some of his biggest highlights right now are on the run. That is still, they don't necessarily have a superstar running back the way they had with Marty Brown last year, although Capino and a couple other guys have been pretty good. But when the Jacks struggled to beat North Dakota State, the Bison ran the football on them. They ran for 200 yards. They ran for 300 yards. So, as long as they're still stopping the run, as long as they're tackling well, I'm not too worried on that end. They're going to give up some passing yards. That's probably the reality with them, and it's going to be a bigger challenge because North Dakota State might have the best receiving core, obviously, with Bryce Lance. We know what he did in the playoff game a year ago, and although I think they did lose another one of their receivers to injury, so they might be a little short. I mean, look, and again, you brought this playing shorthanded, playing down to competition thing. I'm not going to mention the Chiefs necessarily. I've said this.
I put it on T for you. Come on.
I did. Well, I mean, hey, look, I've had people telling me, they're done at 2-3 or they're done at 0. I'm like, 6 weeks into a 17-week season, I think, and I've seen this team over the years start 3-4 and make an AFC championship game. So it's like, I'm not, when you trust your coach, when you trust the process, if you will, I hate to use that cliche, when you trust the process, then until the process fails, I'm going to assume the Chiefs are going to be all right. That's not me being arrogant or a dick or this. And this is like me saying, okay, when Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are in the playoffs every year and they always have winning seasons, I'm going to assume they're going to figure it out if stuff starts off rough. And until they actually have that first losing season or miss the playoffs, I'm going to say that they're going to be fine. Now, I realize with South Dakota State, you've got a new coaching staff, but the formula is still more or less there. How much of this has really changed from Jimmy Rogers, from Dan to Jimmy Rogers to Stig? I mean, that's part of the reason they've gone from Stig to Jimmy Rogers to Dan Jackson, is to keep kind of that continuity and what the program is basically about. Yes, they lost some transfers, but you also kept a lot of people. So this is still the same formula. If it ain't broke, it doesn't need to be fixed. So until they go back to losing games like this, because not necessarily to a Murray State, but they used to lose games like this on the road in the mid 2000s, mid 2010s, excuse me. They used to lose those games. So until they get back to that, I'm not really that concerned about this. It's obviously we know what the big games are. I think you do have to take the perspective of it that the things got thrown into a little bit of disarray today when your starting quarterback is gone after one series. And again, I don't want to speculate to your other point about how badly the Mason injury is. Hopefully a good sign that he seemed to be on the sideline the whole way. I can tell you again, it's tough to compare high school and college. When the Bryant injury happened in that Jefferson game, that kid was fully knocked out, and they had to take him back to the locker room. You'd like to think if Chase was super serious, he maybe gets off the sideline or he's going to have to be wearing a brace or something. And at the same time, though, I don't know that they would have just said, oh, it's Murray State, we're going to win this game anyway. They can't assume that. And the way that game was going, remember, it was about 3 drives. I think they went the first 3 series. It was 3 and out with Marble. I think there was one series they kind of got bailed out on a running into the punter or something. But it was a very rough start, So, and if you're a coach who's getting paid, whatever Dan's salary is for us, it's pretty general. You can't just assume, oh, we're going to win this game, so I can bench my starting quarterback. I think if there was any chance that Chase could have returned, he probably would have, but maybe it was a little more precautionary. I just don't necessarily buy that, and I'm sure Dan is not going to agree with anyone who says we kept Chase out because we just thought we could beat Murray State. He certainly couldn't admit it, but I don't think he
Not
would.
publicly.
Not publicly, but I mean, that's the one drawback I will say. Like I said, inevitably, I think this was a line Stig said to me, and it's verbatim, it's not exact, but he's like, you just never know what happens when you get 60 plus kids on a bus. We can coach them all we want. We can drill this and that into their heads, but you just never know how they're going to play. You never know how they're going to respond. And, I think it's pretty clear, not only for SDSU, but it's pretty clear NDSU and SDSU were both looking ahead a little bit to next week because neither team came out looking particularly crisp in their game. It took them a little while both to get going, and I think that's just kind of human nature when you're talking 18 to 22-year-old kids that you've got the biggest game of the season next week, which is going to be on national TV. There's these rumors that maybe College Game Day is coming. We know ESPN was on campus with SDSU on Wednesday. I mean, and you're playing, and both of them are playing two of the downtrodden teams in the league. There is going to be that natural response of, we got this one. And I think they both ran into teams that certainly probably knew they were being discounted. And, that, to their credit, Murray State and Indiana State played hard and gave them a fight for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to emphasize enough sometimes that these are 18 to 23-year-olds and the effect that emotions and random happenstance and circumstance can have on their mentals, right? I mean, that's why they have a mental strength coach. That's why they got another one this year. And to be honest, I know you said that in years past this wasn't necessarily the game they dropped, but they would drop this game. I would argue that this would have been one, that really would have been likely to have been dropped. You look at this game, you come out, like you said, you go 3-and-out 3-4 times. I mean, I had a fair amount of people over at the house watching the game before we had a big murder mystery tonight and all that stuff, a yearly tradition we do. That's why Ben was calling me Clippy earlier in the comments. But you listen to them and everybody was like, oh my God. It's only 14-7 at half. You don't trust your kicking game enough to hit that field goal at half. You give it a shot, but it's with a freshman quarterback. In the past, there was a real potential at minimum that this game would have been super tight at the end of the game. Instead, the team locked in. Marble got on a roll, and you end up winning, by 21 points. So I take that as a hugely positive sign. On the game day stuff, there's definitely rumbles that, and I'm a pretty big naysayer of game day ever showing up, but there's some rumbles that might happen. So people stay on your toes. I would start watching to see if
social media,
when the announcement comes out, which to be frank has kind of surprised me.
Well, as we who lived it in 2019, remember it came out midday Sunday, and if it happens, it'll ironically be almost 6 years to the day because that was October 26th in 2019, and it'll be October 25th if it comes back. But the way game day has been doing it of late is they've usually been announcing almost on Saturday night where they're going to next. The fact, and I posted earlier in the day that I expected they would announce something. I would have expected they would have announced by now, quite frankly. So it makes me wonder if indeed they have their thought process has changed. I don't know anything there's nothing I can put on the record right here about what I've heard. Again, connect some dots. We know ESPN was on campus on Wednesday. So,
right.
Which,
so
you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know something was probably said to the school at that point.
Right.
Leave it at that.
So before we get too far, I'm going to get in and get one of our sponsors in here, Dreamers Do Travels, with Amy Dix. Dreamers Do Travels. They really kind of specialize in Disney vacations. Everybody wants to be able to take their family on a Disney vacation. Even if you're me and you don't want to go on a Disney vacation, I think that is probably part of just the fabric of the American dream at this point, being able to take your kids on a Disney vacation. If you ever thought it's too expensive, something you can't do, hey, talk to Amy Dix at Dreamers Do Travels. They do some amazing things, get you hooked up, make it possible, make your dream. There's a reason it's called Dreamers Do. Make your dream come true. Get you guys there. They do cruises. They do all-inclusive resorts. Any vacation you might need and you don't want the stress of putting together an itinerary, hotels, flights, all that jazz, they take care of that stuff for you. So reach out to Dreamers Do Travels. They do terrific work and will get you taken care of. It's definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to in the future. I know my wife, the only show she doesn't listen to is this one, so I might look into trying to book a surprise cruise for her with them. That'd be terrific. I think that'd really tickle her, something she's always wanted to do. So hey, let's make the dream happen. So Amy Dix and Dreamers Do Travel, they'll get you taken care of. One quick note, Kevin Marshall says a mental strength coach, that would have gotten you hazed badly in my day at the South Carolina Corps of Cadets. Yeah, so would drinking water. And we've figured out that's pretty stupid. Your brain, as much as you may scoff at it, is a muscle. And I know that because the people who do things to keep their brain sharp tend to be sharper people. And I to be honest, I don't even think that's debatable. So I don't think that's a laughable thing, considering most pro sports teams have 3 to 5 of them. So I think that's a fairly important thing to have. And considering the effect that having Christopher Crack as a mental strength coach getting hired on, and all of a sudden SDSU won 2 national titles. So call us what you want, Kevin. 2 national titles to, well, Citadel exists. I think that's pretty impressive. So I think it does matter. You say what you like. But that being said,
mental health's a different deal, and I heard some of the speeches
there's
you would give,
mental health,
and just it's interesting because I would hear some of the things he would say to him occasionally. I would be in on it. I don't know. I think I remember Tanner Castora did a story on him once when he was still with Kello. Some of it I thought was a little out there, but I'm like, I can see how this is something that benefits these guys. So,
you can
to guys
say
who are maybe of a different age, it sounds weird, but
right.
I did see the positives to it.
Well, and I think people think like, oh, mental strength, he's basically, you're hiring a therapist to take. Like, well, first off, if you have mental health problems, go see a therapist, seriously. Second off, it's not a therapist. It's not a mental health thing, although it, just like working your body helps with your health. I don't think anyone lifting weights to get stronger for heavy weight are going, I want to be healthy. They're going, no, I want to get strong, right? And that's the same thing. So, Kevin's into the SoCo. Anyways, I think mental strength is people hear mental and they associate it with things that they think weak or whatever, and that's not it. It's training your mind to handle situations that are pressure filled and everything else, and making you ready for when it comes, just like any part of your body. Lifting, doing squats, all this stuff. I mean, if you're from a different generation and you think that's silly, well, okay, there's a reason that your average athlete back then ran a 5.6 40 instead of a 4.3. It's the same thing. Strength training's different. Everything else is different. There's a reason that high-end CEOs are meeting with these people and making millions of dollars. It's not something that doesn't work. It works. If it didn't work, that wouldn't be a thing. And I think that's enough on that. But with the game day thing and everything else, I want to get into that stuff. I think we're going to get pretty deep into that stuff. So first, I want to go over just some scores around the country that I think are a big deal, things that definitely need to be brought up. We have our national audience on FCS Fans Nation YouTube. So thanks for joining us. If you are quickly going through, there was a lot of big Missouri Valley matchups this week. Youngstown State and Illinois State. That was a monster one.
Ooh.
Youngstown State goes on the road and wins 40-35 in a massive comeback.
By the way, I mean, he's not going to win it because it'll go to someone else, but
yeah,
the Brungard guy should really be in the running for the Peyton. I hope he's one of the, whatever it is, like there's 25 finalists, whatever it comes down to. His numbers today are just are insane. Passed for 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. Carried 30 times for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think I said pass for 3 touchdowns. Pass for 2 scores. That's 528 total yards of offense from a quarterback.
If Bo Brungard is not everyone's offensive player of the week, they weren't paying attention. They just genuinely were not paying. 500 plus
that's insane.
yards by one player. Absurd.
He
just
is the
ludicrous.
Offense at that point. I mean,
yeah,
and 30 times
he had 5 touchdowns.
30 carries. I mean,
34.
I've talked
30 carries, 34 attempts. Sorry.
Yeah, I've talked several times about, man, I think James Lawfridge and at SDSU and LJ Phillips, they better watch out. They're wearing these dudes out. Here's your quarterback carrying the ball that much,
like a maniac.
Wild.
Yep. We're talking about a football player, Tommy Millott style football player.
Yeah, and it's we talked a little bit about how close that game was a few weeks ago in Youngstown. I'm like, well, that's why. I mean, this dude is a dude, and he is. I saw it a little bit last year when SDSU hosted Youngstown, they just blew the doors off them, and it wasn't necessarily a fair thing. But I saw it a year ago when USD, a really good USD team, played at Youngstown, and they struggled with them because Brungard kind of got off to a good start. And if you let him get into a rhythm, he's just a tough dude when he starts getting into his flow. Luckily for SDSU this year and USD last year, the better team eventually kind of settled in, made adjustments at halftime, and kind of took over. But, Illinois State, I think we're seeing a little bit. I still think Illinois State and Southern Illinois are good teams, but we're seeing that separation of just, I don't think defensively those teams have enough to be that next level unit that goes super far or can hang long enough with, the upper crust of the Valley and the FCS.
Well, what's crazy is you think Illinois State and even Southern Illinois, even though they tend to bounce back and forth between good offense, good defense. Illinois State and Southern Illinois don't have very good defenses. Illinois State's a 78th before this week. Youngstown State took this game from 12-21 and brought it to 40-28 before a late touchdown by Illinois State at Illinois State, formerly number 11 ranked team. I mean, you can't say enough. This was a game Youngstown State had to have, and they got. And good for them. There were some other notable performances across the country, of course, but right now we're just going through the Valley. NDSU ends up winning 38-7. It was a very tight game. A lightning delay happened. Some major injuries and I mean this genuinely, major injuries that really suck coming into Marker week. Their stud defensive tackle
the big one
gets carted off and taken off on an
Jackson
ambulance.
Dudenheffer.
Yeah.
But the good news, the really good news, because I happened to flip over to that right when he was down, and you see his parents coming out of the stands, and you're like, oh my God, at that point. But yeah, he was totally immobilized, cart, everything. The face mask ripped off the helmet at that point, or whatever they do to take it off. The good news was because again, it was such a long delay, they didn't resume till I think 3 or 4, till about 4 o'clock. He was actually back at the stadium by around 6 o'clock. He had like a neck roll. I think he had some kind of big neck brace, not like some kind of neck roll, something on his neck. But yeah, he was back with his team by the end of the day. Obviously, he had shown some hand movement as he was being taken off. I I don't really want to speculate, and so I apologize here as I have a light going out a little bit. I'll try and get a little bit better. I'm obviously, like I said, I'm a man of the woods right now. As that
Don't kill the
tweet,
battery on the car. You thought they'd kill you if you woke them up, man. They wake up hung over to a
well, I did turn the
dead
car off.
battery.
I got enough heat. I got enough heat in here now that I'm pretty good turning the car off, and I actually wanted to kind of, turn the let some natural air in on what's not as cold a night as it, will be pretty. We might have a little chillier night next week because I have a feeling hopefully by this time next week we're back in our homes. I don't know what the deal will be there, but yeah, getting back to that point, yeah, he was back with his teammates. So, I don't want to say miraculous, but boy, when you see that, you almost get that feeling. It was just. That was scary to tune in, and it was about a 20-25 minute at least delay to that game. It's the whole team is around him. As I said, the broadcast, you could see the parents coming down from the stands, and I don't know how many. Didn't look like there was a very big crowd there anyway, and the weather was brutal. And the play that happened on was pretty innocuous. It was like a 3-yard. They dropped a Illinois State guy for a 3-yard loss, but.
Yep.
It's football, that sometimes you can get those traumas on what seems like just everyday stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really glad he's okay. Really glad he's back. I think the thing is with the Marker, you want everybody full strength coming into that game.
I don't want to speculate on that part. I mean,
right.
Don't want to speculate on that part. I mean, obviously, pretty significant trauma. We'll see. Whether he's available, let's let that go to the side for now. We'll see if he's available next week. They had another guy, I believe it was, I want to say it was Malachi Evans, I think was the name. He also looked like he was pretty badly hurt. So, I mean, it was, like I said, it was interesting that we thought SDSU and NDSU were going to have these two walks in the park, but as the coaches love to say, you got to play them one at a time, and that's why. And I think that was the one thing you kind of hoped for SDSU over the last 2 weeks was they could get out of these games quick and painless, and they didn't get out of them painless. I mean, obviously last week Loffridge kind of got nicked up. Was back today, but that's going to be a concern moving forward. And then again, Blair gets hurt to go along with the whatever's happening with Mason. And then you look over to Fargo, and the Bison suffer 2 injuries, which may not. Which on the surface, you don't know if they'll be back next week. So, it's more that proof that you just never can. You can maybe pencil in a win, but you can never, it never goes quite according to plan, quote unquote.
Right.
And,
well,
and I will say the other weird thing with them is they've had some interesting starts to games. Like,
right.
Southern Illinois pushed them for a half. I think it was, I don't know why I have a thumbs up thing that just popped up on my, did I see a thumbs up? You see that?
Not here, not on this screen, but I'm wondering, yeah, it does that on phones sometimes. Like
I don't know if it's because I gave myself a thumbs up. I don't know why I would.
Right.
I've never done this on a phone. I don't think every other time I've had my laptop, but well, they've had some difficult starts, and obviously Southern Illinois hung with them for a half. Illinois State was with them for 3 quarters. Indiana State was with them for a half. And
let's be honest, that's old school NDSU, right? They would hang with teams for a half always, and then blow them out in the second half. Ariel says she saw the thumbs up.
It had been a little different this year, but because the inferior teams they'd played, they'd kind of knocked them back and knocked them. I mean, it had been such a dominant team, but it's one of those things where I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in the fact that they maybe got a rough start, and then what does that mean? I don't know that it means anything. I don't think any of those 3 teams had the capability of hanging with them for 4 quarters. I do think South Dakota State has that capability. Can they win? We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. But
right.
It's consistently the only program that has shown it can play 4 quarters with North Dakota State is South Dakota State, and often vice versa. I mean, Montana State too, a little bit now. USD had that window the last 2 years. Obviously, they've kind of fallen back, but consistently, this is the only program that physically matches up with them. And again, where I said in my review of that Murray State game was, unless the Jacks are really getting gashed in the run game, I think it's because they can go, they can, in the trenches, they're going to equalize things there. You're not going to see a Bison running back go for 152. Think about some of the backs they used to have in the mid 2010s who would go off. You're not going to see them just wear down. Illinois State had a shot in that game. They were down 18-16 going the fourth, but they gave up a 10. They gave up the long drives that wear you down. Then they go 3 and out, and then it goes right back. And it's just like you're constantly in this ball control. Get punched in the mouth, punched in the face. Finally, you've taken so many body shots. You're on weak knees. SDSU's not that team. They've been the team that can do the same thing. They can win in the trenches. The difference is you're a little worried about is Cole Payton, because he seems to make a lot of off-script runs and plays, and we've seen that with Brungard, and we saw that.
I'm gonna time out you here. I don't. We're gonna hold off on getting into the NDSU stuff too deep here.
Let's keep going
till we charge through the rest of this, because I know.
Let's charge through the rest of the Valley.
I know we've got tons to say, and we're gonna end up not doing any of this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
UND really. Yeah, we're gonna do the rest of the Valley. Some important ones around the country here. UND doubles up. They don't just win; they double up Southern Illinois.
Never a game.
Carbondale, never close. Dominate.
Nothing. I think it was right.
Yeah.
At 1 point,
38-19 final score. That is a statement by UND. The Fighting Hawks are here. They're real. They are, in my opinion, easily the number 3 team in the conference right now. And to be frank, having NDSU and SDSU at home with some of the games that the Jacks and NDSU have had, very much a real threat to win the conference, in my opinion, especially having those teams at home.
I said that online too. I mean, it could very much be a situation like we had last year with the 3-way tie. The other reality is that we're starting to see SDSU and NDSU get a little more banged up, and it seems like UND is pretty healthy. We'll see. The Hawks could take some injuries. And we'll maybe mention a little bit about USD. I still think the game in Vermilion isn't going to be a cakewalk for them.
It's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be a cakewalk, Zach. Zach, stop it. Zach, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. They beat Illinois. They beat India. It's barely a rivalry game.
I'm just not ready to say that's a cakewalk yet. It might give them. I think it's going to give them more problems than Southern Illinois.
No,
I'll put it like that.
Come on. They beat Northern Iowa by 3. By 3, Zach.
I'm not ready.
Jeez.
We'll see. I want to see what happens with Illinois State this week. If they get, if they can't beat Illinois State now, then I'm probably on board with them not being able to put up much of a fight. But they're 5-3, and they've still got something to play for. So let's see what happens in 2 weeks. That's all.
No,
I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to call it on them yet. But their offense is rough. It is bad.
Everybody loves. I don't know. Boy, does USD get a lot of rope. That's crazy. SDSU was SDSU, and their fans were unhappy that was a 14-point game at halftime, and it was a 3-point win. We've got to stop with this USD. Oh, they're going to be competitive in these real games. I
don't know. I mean, again,
they gave Indiana State their closest game, and now have given a similar fight, except coming out on the winning side as Eastern Washington did to UNI.
I will say UNI that it was a 3-point game, but UNI got a touchdown in the final minute to get within 3. So
right, but you only score 17.
It's their offense. That's the weird thing about their offense.
Utah Tech beat Northern Iowa.
Again, I'm just saying they are still alive and they're at home. We'll see if that gives them.
They're not dead. Mathematically, they are not dead.
If this were the Alara Center, then yes, I'm saying UND wins by 4 touchdowns and it's not close. But if they win this, if they can win this next game against Illinois State, who seems to be kind of on a bit of a downslope, going to that game at 6-3, to me, then anything can happen there. That's just it's a as much as everybody wants to write them off, and they're not going to be in contention for anything beyond just trying to get in as one of the
They
final
deserve
playoffs.
to be written off at this point. It's not want to, they deserve it. Come
Well,
on.
I'm not. Well, obviously they're not going to be in anywhere near.
There's a reason that people who
well,
watch really closely in the FCS don't rank them.
I wouldn't necessarily rank them right now. No, I wouldn't, because I think their offense, again, there's something not right with their offense. They just don't. I mean, LJ Phillips is a really good back. I'll say that. Good runner. Aiden Bauman has not quite looked right this year. I don't know if it's the receiver. I think it's a combination of everything. The receivers, the offensive line, and he just doesn't look as good as doesn't look at his best, for lack of a better term. But we'll see. I'm not ready to write them off with a 3-game homestand coming up. If they lose to Illinois State, then yeah, I think they're done. They win that game, then you're 6-3. And then, you know what? If you beat UND and you're 7-3, you're in the playoffs. I mean, that's the reality. If they win the next two, by hook or by crook, no matter what we say, no matter.
I mean, sure, if Northern Colorado wins out, they'll make the playoffs too. It doesn't mean they're a good team or a playoff team.
Well, I mean, again, you don't. The other half of it is, with the bottom half of the bracket, you don't have to be a good team or a great team. You just kind of have to be an average.
No, you do have to be a good team. You have to win 8 games to make it.
We've seen some kind of average teams get in at the bottom half of brackets before.
The bottom half of the bracket teams that people consider average are the auto bids that come from the small conferences.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, if they beat Illinois, this will be rendered mute if they lose to Illinois State. I'm just saying they did what they had to do, which was win those 2 games on the road. We've seen in the Valley, there is no. You can't take any game off on the road and assume you're just going to walk in and win. Now, I don't know what their deal is offensively. They will cut. The weird thing is, in a lot of their games, they've had first drive. They've scored on their first drive of, I think, at least 4 of their games. And they started this game like They started this game on like an 88-yard touchdown drive. It looked. Again, you think to yourself, okay, they're humming. They're going to come out and kill this team, and then they just go to sleep. Like, their offense makes you want to eat your own eyeballs after it looks beautiful on the opening drive. Again, we know they have a new offensive coordinator. It was rough the first year with Josh Davis, but man, I don't understand how you can script a good first drive and then completely go to, unless it's against obviously like an NDSU or an SDSU. I get that. You're just overmatched by a better team. But to be able to script a really good first drive, have all the momentum, and then your offense just goes boom. It's hard to explain. Their only other touchdown was on a broken play where their receiver got free for like a 60-something yard score. But it's again, they don't have the same quality of athletes. They don't have the same quality of team they had a year ago. Obviously, that's true. But there's something there, and they just can't tap into it. I mean, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's scheme, I don't know if it's personnel, or somewhere in the middle. There's enough to be better. There's enough to be better offensively if they figure it out. But at this point in the season, you probably are who you are, and I don't know that they're going to find that. But we'll find out. They've given themselves a chance. Whether they will take advantage of it, realistically, if you're 3-1, obviously you go 3. Say they go 3-1 with a loss to SDSU, you're in. 2-2, I don't know. You're at least, but they've given themselves a shot. We'll see what they do with it, and we'll see what happens with that Illinois State game next week. Which now the other problem for them is, previously Southern Illinois and Illinois State would have been good-looking resume wins, but we don't know where they're headed either. If those teams crater, then that doesn't look like a good win. So now, even if you get those 2, you almost have to either get a win over UND or SDSU to get in, and you almost have to go 3-1.
Yep.
So going
Zach
2-2,
McKinnell says they have to go 3-1 to be on the bubble. Don't love
they
their
might now
chances.
have
Illinois
to.
State and Southern Illinois will be their best shots. They're gonna
Those
have
are
to
probably
beat
their
one of
best shots to
FDSU or
win. Now,
UND. Yeah.
But again, weird shit. The same thing we've said about going to the Alaris Center. Weird shit happens in the Dakota Dome. It just does.
It does. It does. But if you're the years the Yotes have had to bank on that are not the years they've been a playoff team, and that's what they're banking on right now.
Well, you did ask me the one thing about. I think you asked me the last time when they lost that game to NDSU if they ever made the playoffs and they gave up 50-some. I think the year they gave up the Hail Mary, they did give up like they gave up like 50 to NDSU, but then they got promptly lost a pretty bad game to Southern Illinois. But they did make the playoffs,
and we saw they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, they didn't make much of that appearance. I think they got beat like 22-10, so it was but we'll see. Like I said, I don't know. They've given themselves a shot. I didn't have much optimism that they were gonna. I didn't have much optimism they were gonna go 2-0 on the road 2 weeks ago, quite frankly. So, until they have played themselves out of it, they've got a shot. And again, you just never know what's some places you go into, no matter what the crowd is, it's just weird. There's a weird vibe for teams going in there, and that's one of them.
Yep. So going through the rest of the country, Idaho loses to Eastern Washington, buttoning up the fact that they are not a good team. That team's season is pretty much over. One of the formerly highly ranked teams in the country, they're toast. So another thing that shows you preseason polls, preseason preconceptions are terrible. In the SoCon, Western Carolina gets the win over the Citadel in a tight game. Dickens for the Citadel has a huge game in that one, continuing his Walter Payton chase. We'll see if that holds up when he missed 3 games. We'll see if that holds up for him. In the Ivy League, Harvard, because we have to care about the Ivy League now. Harvard remains undefeated. Dartmouth wins. The Ivy League will get the auto bid. I'm not sure if they'll get a second win or not. I think that's going to depend on the SoCon. SoCon having ETSU lose to Chattanooga is not good for them and their chances on wanting to get a second bid. Although I think right now Mercer and Western Carolina, those are their best chances to get 2 bids.
Mercer was off this week, right?
Mercer was off this week. Yes.
Yeah, I remember from last week, and you're right. That West Carolina, it's kind of setting up that it looks like it might be it'll come down to West Carolina and Mercer. But I did think West Carolina had some trap games, and Citadel was, as much as our friends our Citadel friends kind of give us some. Citadel was a bit of a trap game for them, and they survived it today. That was a pretty fun shootout.
Yep. Another Zach McKinnell, our boy Blue Bloods from Sports Illustrated, says Harvard is so good. Jaden Craig is a dude. He is a dude, and they do look to be a good team. I'll be fascinated. I cannot wait to see them in the playoffs. It's gonna be very exciting.
Brendan.
Especially since odds are they'll have a chance to feast on the weak Eastern teams.
Oh boy.
So yeah, don't kill your battery now. Restart that car.
No, it's not going to kill my battery, but it's one of those deals where you're getting a little bit of everything. It's like if I stay inactive too long, I think everything shuts down. So,
right. In the rest, the Southland Conference, Stephen F. Austin is beating up on Nichols right now, 34-7, 4:45 left in the fourth. That was a game that resumed after weather delay, just like NDSU versus Indiana State. Lamar only beats UT Rio Grande Valley, UTRGV, the startup program in their first year. They beat them by 2 points, 23-21. If you want to look me in the eye and tell me Lamar's a really good team, I have doubts. Southeast Louisiana pummels Northwestern State. In my opinion, them and Stephen F. Austin are 2 teams that are really showing that they might be possibly the cream of that conference. They win 49-0. So those are the notable scores from there. And then the Yuck, where it's named after puke, but it's not a puke conference. Tarleton State continues their run wins 45-10 against West Georgia. And Abilene Christian, a team that was riding really high in the polls, had a lot of juice behind them, loses to Southern Utah, a Southern Utah team that had a bunch of heartbreak losses against good teams early in the season and is just going to be one nasty little heartbreaker of a season ruiner for a lot of these teams in the UAC. Southern Utah wins 31-24. And what is a tough loss for Abilene Christian probably really hurts their rankings and their potential to get an at-large bid when they look like they could potentially be a top 16 seed. So that's a tough one for them. In the CAA, go ahead.
I was going to say the Tarleton win. I do think that's a good one for them, even though I don't know what it'll look like it's a ranked win technically, but along with UTRGV, we kind of all liked what West Georgia's been, or we like what they've been doing. I mean, that's a good program that, in a few years when they are playoff eligible is going to make some noise. And I think to put them, I think to win that game convincingly, even though it's a younger program in FCS, I think that's a good win for Tarleton. I don't know whether it's going to, how it's going to boost them in the standings or anything like that, but that's another sign to me that they're kind of creeping toward they're legit, and we'll see what happens when the rubber meets the road, and inevitably they're going to have to play someone in the upper half, whether it's one of the Montanas or one of the Dakotas.
Yep, and that'll be interesting to see. I think the biggest thing that'll be interesting is to see if they get the 2 seed over the Big Sky champions. Everybody goes into undefeated for the champions. That'll be interesting. That's a future conversation because I know we've got tons to say about this marker game. So one last quick one. The only thing that
Big Sky,
well, the Big Sky, and there wasn't really a big result. There wasn't much to talk about besides Idaho losing in the Fluffy, to be honest.
Idaho better not be in any more polls. Good Lord.
No.
I can't believe they still won.
I ranked them last week, and that was an embarrassment. I should not have done that.
I will say to that point, I saw Northern Colorado lost a tight one tonight out at Sacramento State. Their president apparently stirring the pot again ahead of their game. I think their game with Montana actually follows the marker game next week, if I'm not mistaken. If that's correct, or I don't know. I don't know when.
I don't care about bad teams. I have no idea.
Well, he was stirring the pot a little bit, but I will say I mentioned this last week. I don't think Northern Colorado is going to get the playoffs now, but they've had a nice turnaround out there. It's been a.
I think they're in the right direction.
They're a team that was a few plays from being 5-1. I mean, they probably should have won at Colorado State, could have won in Vermilion. It would be good for the FCS if that program could finally figure something out. And frankly,
if
it does, we might see them perhaps making their way into the Summit/Valley down the road.
Well, I mean, I think if they get good, then the Big Sky's going to do everything they can to keep them. That being said, they are turning the corner. If you ask me next year if they return a good chunk of their roster, they're exactly the type of team that I pick to be a dark horse and make a huge run. Who, realistically, if a couple plays go their way, they are probably a top 15 team right now because they'd have an FBS win, they'd be 5-1, all that stuff. So that is definitely something to note. And I hope they turn it around. I love seeing bad programs turn it around, but especially so when they've got a lot of tradition, like you said, it would be fantastic to see them turn it around.
The last thing I'll see on the Big Sky too, I know Montana, they had Sacred Heart, so that wasn't going to be that was going to be pretty much a W from the start. Keelia, I think I know I'm going to get the guy's name wrong. Keelia Ayat. I think I said at one point, man, I don't know if this guy's just a legacy because his dad was, I think he was the quarterback of their first national championship team back in the mid '90s.
Right.
I for a time I thought he was just kind of a legacy guy who was just there because of his dad. I still wonder how real Montana is, and we'll find out about them. I think probably a little bit when they go to Sacramento, but a lot when they play the Bobcats. He made some unreal plays in that game today, and he is I mean, for all the guys they keep trying to bring in through the portal, he's turned into a pretty good quarterback. I mean, that is not a player who, but he's definitely earned his spot and earned his dues in Missoula.
Well, he said publicly that, if he feels a lot better not having to feel like he's looking over his shoulder. And that, I mean, he's not wrong. It's what we made fun of Bobby Houck for how long now. Pick a quarterback, stick with him, and let him be a quarterback. And it's funny to hear him say that. And yeah, the kid's balling out. It's amazing what happens when you pick a guy and stick with him and find out what you really got. And they look good, but I'm with you. And you can see it in the committee's rankings too, that they want to see something out of Montana besides just playing at home against bad teams. So and that Idaho win they had is just fading so fast.
And I do think Sac, and again, I know I think it's Samuel Akim, the former Grizz receiver, posted the Sacramento State. He posted some halftime. I think Luke Wood did an interview during the halftime of the local broadcast. He's pretty much just playing WWE villain at this point, and I think he knows it. But it will end up on the bulletin board, and Bobby is gonna play that up, and it'll get its run at Missoula. So it'll definitely add a little extra spice to that game. But I do think that's a genuinely. We'll see. I don't think it's the toughest game they have left, but I'm definitely intrigued to see how the Grizz will play on national TV in what should be a tough road environment. I think Sacramento will show out for that game. I don't know how the Hornets will do, but I think it'll be a pretty good crowd, and it'll be one of the tougher road environments they faced.
Well, if anything, there'll be a lot of Montana fans there, right?
That too.
That's a fact. They travel.
They got shots fired tonight. So
yes, they did. Beyond that, the CAA, the only thing that I really see of note is somehow, by the grace of God, I don't know if Jesus himself came down and played quarterback for Rhode Island, but somehow Rhode Island put up 58 points on Albany, and the only thing I can think is if Albany literally escorted them to the end zone, because that offense is so bad to score 58 points. It is absolutely boggles the mind. I can't believe it. They're so bad on offense, and they put up 58 points. I don't know if it was a Make-A-Wish day for the Rhode Island foot offense, and they're like, all right, normally they score 7 and win 7-3, but we're gonna make them feel really good. So, guys, they need it. We're gonna give them 58 points. I don't know. That's crazy. Just crazy. It was on Flow Sports, so nobody watched it. But yeah, it was 31-3 after the first half. I don't know. Albany, good God, maybe fold the program if you let that happen. Maybe you consider that, because holy God.
Too bad they actually kind of gave Iowa more of a fight earlier than Borg. I mean, especially it
was at home.
They were in the semifinals. Just obviously remember them. They were they were in the semifinals just a few years ago. I mean, they were going to be cannon fodder for that SDSU team, but they went out to the Kibbe. They went out to the Kibbe Dome and beat Eck. I mean, it was. They denied us.
It wasn't that long ago.
Jimmy Rogers showdown we were begging for a couple of years, and I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, I can't really add anything to what you just said there with you brought Jesus and Make-A-Wish into it. So I think that's probably a good way to end our Around the FCS chatter.
Yeah.
We got to be careful. I don't know if you bring in anybody else, we might be getting a little risque at this time of the night.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I just want to quick mention another one of our last sponsor here, Innovative Engineering. Innovative Engineering, if you have any sort of HVAC needs or anything else, hold on, they actually sent us a read that I've never gotten before. So we've never actually had a read, so this is very exciting times for me to read. So we're gonna quick pull this up for them, and we're gonna read this right. Innovative Engineering, founded in 2005, Innovative Engineering Solutions LLC delivers high-performance mechanical engineering design for both new construction and renovation projects. Based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they specialize in HVAC and plumbing systems designed to meet unique needs of each client while ensuring full compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. They proudly support a diverse range of commercial clients, including multifamily housing developers, office and retail spaces, auto dealerships, banks, churches, schools, and other commercial facilities. They don't punt on their design. Their experienced team includes licensed engineers, skilled designers, and expert CAD technicians. They utilize industry-leading tools like Revit and Train 3D Plus software to tackle designs that are not just functional, but a touchdown every time. At Innovative Engineering Solutions, client satisfaction is their top priority. They listen, collaborate, and deliver smart, energy-efficient systems that perform reliably for years to come. So thank you to Innovative Engineering for being a sponsor of Late Night with the Borg here with us. First read I've ever done from a piece of paper, so that was fun.
I'd clap, but I'll just do that because I'm holding the phone with another one. But yeah, like a boss, man.
Yeah.
I did want to hear you maybe do a collab, stop, drop, collaborate, and listen.
Stop. Collaborate and listen. I'll work that into the next one. I can do that. Just remind me before the show.
I don't know. You do have to kind of stick to the script on those ad reads. It's my limited experience with them. I haven't done too many ad reads. So,
well, hopefully, I think they're forgiving. Hopefully.
If they're willing to sponsor this slapdashery, they deserve whatever they get. We thank them for their service nonetheless.
Yeah, God bless them for doing that for us.
I mean, they're paying for a guy who's talking out of his wife's minivan in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, at whatever time we are right now, 12:49 in the morning.
Right. 12:49 in the morning. That sounds spot on for us. And
on brand.
What was it? Yeah. I mean, we are what we are. And Chad said, I think almost an hour ago now, you guys are still talking. Yeah, we are. We keep it up. Somehow we have more viewers now. So I don't know, make that make sense.
Well, it's marker week. It is marker week. So
it is marker week. Let's get into it.
We have arrived at the I don't think it will be an hour, but as I think I heard in hockey, I love the hockey guys on Canadian on the Canadian broadcasts. They're like, the hour of decision has arrived, and that's where we're at. It's marker week. So there we go. One of the best bobbleheads
ever.
Bobble Rock, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, we have arrived at the hour of decision, at least in the regular season, because still feels like these two teams are probably going to meet again in the playoffs. Probably a pretty good chance, though, that if they meet again in the playoffs, it'll be it will not be in Brookings or Fargo. It'll probably be in Nashville if they do, because I think we're pretty confident this year. Although we'll see, because that UND team we've talked about.
Hey, they both lose to UND, and this could be a whole. One of them loses to it. Who knows?
Again, it's the situation you had last. I mean, although that didn't really hurt you, it didn't hurt NDSU too much last year, but it's very much the situation you had last year, where I could see a three-way tie. I could see that very well happening again, where those three, we have three schools kind of going the 1-1-1, and you're like, well, who on Selection Sunday, we're all wondering, and it's almost identical, because last year you had the team that really had to win at the very end to put themselves in the conversation, which was USD, beating NDSU on the final game. Well, who do we think it's probably going to have to be that would have to do that again? It's probably going to have to be UND this time, and they're going to play SDSU in Grand Forks. So, now maybe the good news is that means that if it follows last year's script, SDSU wins this week. And, that would be ideal. But yeah, I mean, it could very well, it's going to be they'll be very interesting, but yeah, we'll stay on topic with the marker, because for now, this is the game that's you have to assume right now, this is the game that determines the number one seed, even though there definitely is still,
a lot of football.
lot of football to be played and some difficult road games for both the Bison and Jacks ahead.
Yeah. And a while back, Adam Martin says, Brendan, quit bobbling your rock during the stream. I'll do what I want with my rock, Adam. I want to just first quick somebody I can't dig back and find the comment because it's really hard to do comments and talk all at the same time and everything else. But they asked, what was the best defense that NDSU has faced to date? Going into this weekend, the best defense that NDSU had faced was the Citadel at number 29 in points per game.
Wow.
That's the best one. The next was number 46, Southern Illinois. That probably also got higher after this week with what UND did to them. Then was number 70, USD. Number 78, Illinois State. Number 99, SEMO. And 91, Tennessee State.
I mean, I don't want to do the playing the whole they haven't played a tough schedule thing is just I don't know
well,
that I
here's the thing. I'm not
hard, but
I don't think it's not a tough schedule thing. I think it's surprising because it's the Valley and you're playing Valley teams. You expect them to be top 30. I don't think those are bad teams. I just think they are more offensively geared than normal. Illinois State and Southern Illinois and things like that. Now here's something.
I will say that.
Yes, I agree. The Valley is very good this year. It's just good differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, here's what I want everybody to do. Close your eyes and imagine something for me. I'm going to describe the upcoming game, and I want you to think back. And because there's one thing I love doing. And if you, I don't know, Borg, I'm hearing a little feedback. If you could mute for a second. Sorry. But do me a favor and close your eyes and think back. And this was spoiled. I was going to save this for our bestest buddy, Matt Frazee from the FCS Fans Nation Network. But he'll be on with us this Monday. So we'll talk about it more there and we'll get his opinion on this. But I want you to close your eyes and imagine back. What game does this sound like? A very ballyhooed quarterback, super athletic, can run with his legs, hits deep bombs on the sidelines and out routes. Not a lot of over-the-middle crossing routes, but generally hits bombs to his wide receivers. A very ballyhooed quarterback of sorts. Draft scouts are starting to pick him up and notice him. An SDSU team who, while everybody agreed they were pretty good, also agreed they're probably not as good as NDSU. A marker game, the game of the year, every year for the FCS, being played in Brookings, South Dakota, with the underdog Jackrabbits, potentially College game day. Maybe College game day did come. A very thin running back room and not a lot of depth behind the quarterback. A very good defensive line. Good wide receivers for SDSU. What year does that sound like to everybody? By God, I'm telling you, it sounds like 2019. What happened? Who was the quarterback in that? Well, that was Trey Lance. He was very good. He ended up being the number 2 draft pick in the NFL, the National Football League, the number 2 draft pick, an incredible feat for any school, anywhere. Hugely impressive. Trey Lance came into Brookings, into Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium and faced the Jackrabbits on a day that College game day was there to celebrate the Dakota Marker game. With an SDSU team that had a cat named Jabari Gibbs who could run, almost pulled the upset at Minnesota. Really athletic quarterback, made a lot of better throws than he got credit for. And what did the Jacks do to that number 2 quarterback in the draft? They held him to 67 yards passing. Now, NDSU ran for a lot of yards that game. However, I'm not predicting an outcome here by any sorts or factors. But if you're looking at Cole Payton as this unstoppable, undeniable, unbeatable machine, I would remind you that the coaching staff that designed the defense that held young Trey Lance, the all-star superstar draft pick, to 67 yards that game, the assistant head coach in that game was a young man named Dan Jackson. the defensive coordinator in that game, Mr. Berge himself. I'm just saying there are echoes of the past in every step we take, and it feels the same way. I'm telling you, and I guarantee you, every SDSU fan on the planet, whether they want to admit it or not, because saying that an injury lost you the game is lame and weak, you still probably feel like SDSU wins that game if Jabari Games doesn't get hurt. And knock on wood, but holy God, why all of a sudden does Chase Mason get injured the game right before this happens? Basically the same thing as getting hurt the second drive of the game. Tell me that this doesn't feel the same.
There is a interesting comparison. I know Matthew also made to another game that in this series that I did find a little similar to it. I do find there are some very striking similarities, and I have said this current run that the Jacks are on against the Bison, where I know they lost the 2 games last year, but this current run where they more or less leveled up with North Dakota State, I do believe it started in 2019, even though they lost that game, because that was the first game. It started after they lost that semifinal in 2018, and then in 2019, because in 2018, they go back to the Fargo Dome. It's their second straight year in the semifinals, and we forget they had never made the semifinals prior to that point. But in both of those semifinals, James Madison and North Dakota State, they were in the games at half, and then they get run off the field in the second half. They just don't have the depth. They can't last in the trenches. They get worn out. I mean, obviously, James Madison, there was also the 10 turnovers. It didn't help either. But the point is, both games, deal. I think both games they were within a touchdown at half. And you're like, okay, they got a shot. They can do this. But they get worn out. And I remember I asked Stig at the end of that NDSU game, I'm like, well, what is it about? Why do you think you guys are in these games for a half, but you can't it seems like you get worn down? And he kind of was like, you could tell he was maybe a little upset about the question, but he genuinely was like, I don't really know. It was like, that was kind of his answer. It's like, I don't really agree with that, but you could tell it was kind of like eating at him a little bit. That it's like, yeah, we're in these games, and then we just get run off the field. And then the next year when they play NDSU, it's like, okay, this is the first time I've seen it where the Bison aren't really physically moving them at all. Like, even in the games the Jacks would win against North Dakota State, which you go back to the 2017 game, the Dallas Goedert one-handed catch game where they beat Easton Stick. That was the second straight win. Or the game they won in Fargo in 2016. In those games, the Bison would still run for a lot of yards. And I know they ran for a lot of yards in that 2019 game, but a lot of that also came on that 70-some yard touchdown that ended up being the game winner when it was on a 4th and 1, and they just packed everybody in, and the guy bounced outside, and it was a fourth. They were bunching up to try and stop the play up the middle, and the guy bounced out and made a great play. But point is, that game all along was the first time I really thought, man, they're throwing a lot of linemen out there. They're matching up physically. And I was pretty excited. I'm like, I know they lost this game, and then the injuries torpedoed that team. If that team could have stayed healthy, because I know there are people who say that was one of the best Bison teams of all time. I know they went 15-0. I'm like, yeah, but Trey Lance didn't do anything in that game. They got kind of lucky to win that game. They almost lost to a third-string quarterback, a true freshman. If the true freshman doesn't make a bad interception, the Jacks were on the verge of taking the lead in that game. We forget that too. So to me, that's where SDSU started to turn things around, even though they lost. And then the next couple of years, they just keep building and building. We see the depth on the lines. It's like they're like hockey line changes with the defensive lines. The 605 Hogs becomes more of a thing. They've leveled up ever since. But the game that I find a little more similarities with, and I saw Matt point this out as well, which may not be good news for the SDSU fans, is the 2022 Marker game. Because you have, and I know the Jacks in that game had come in, they'd lost that Iowa game, but beyond that, they were playing really good football, and I think people were starting to get pretty confident that this was a team that was, this could be the team that does it, that wins that first national title. Meanwhile, they were going into North Dakota State. It's 1-2. The Bison are the defending national champs. But people in Fargo had a lot of questions about that team. They won, but it wasn't. They lost one game as well. They lost to Arizona. But they just weren't. People had a lot of questions in Fargo about that team. So they weren't necessarily comfortable, even though they were at home. And, of course, we remember how that one turned out. Jacks got down in that hole. Looked like they were maybe going to go down 20, 21 points. Who else but Cole Payton comes in on after the infamous bow and arrow celebration that knocks the Bison back after they had gotten down to like the 5-yard line. Then they bring in Cole Payton, and he throws an interception at half when they were about to take I think it would have been a 21-point lead, essentially. And that might have ended the game right there. Because I don't know if the Jacks come back from 21 down in Fargo. There are elements of this game that remind me of that, just because SDSU is going to host it. But it's like they haven't necessarily, other than that Montana State game, given you, there's a lot of questions. It's like, I get the feeling the fan base isn't that comfortable as you think they would be with a team that's now 6-0. And obviously, Indy, I mean, I still expect it's going to be a great game. I had some doofus came online and said, "Oh, we're going to hang 50." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to bet the farm that ain't going to happen, buddy."
Oh God.
Yeah. I don't know if the dude was drunk or not, but I'm like, I'm not going to predict the result of this game. I am going to bet the farm that neither team is scoring 50 points in this game. Neither team will score 50 points. I'll say that. But I don't even know if they hit 50 points combined in a lot of these games, to be quite honest with you. But there's similarities on both ends, and you can look back historically. There are precedents. I think the biggest difference between Lance and Peyton is Peyton's a tank. I mean, Lance was a smaller guy. Peyton, they've always wanted him to be the FCS version of Tim Tebow, and that's kind of what he's been this year, except he seems to have a better throwing motion, but there are some limitations to his game. So, but that is the one thing I do remember. You're very true on that point, as they really, for all the buzz Trey Lance got that year, and as incredible as he was, and he deserved every award he got, I'm like, when people ask me, well, how good is he? I'm like, can't really tell you. And I'd seen him a lot when he was at Marshall High School, because I covered him there too. I'm like, I can't really tell you how good he's going to be in the NFL, guys, because the one time I saw him in person, he was pretty average. Yep. They schemed him down. And, if the pandemic doesn't happen, he probably spent another year in school, and it could have been a different story. But this will be its own thing. And I'm very curious to see, because I don't think this is an unstoppable NDSU team. I've seen that posted. I think some of that's a cope from teams that have lost to them. I think maybe Bison fans are inflating themselves a little bit. Maybe it's some of the boredom of still being in this level. I don't think this is an unstoppable team. I think it's a very, 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 very good team. But, if they get off to let's just say if they get off to the kind of starts they've gotten off to the last few weeks, I don't know that they're digging out of those holes. Illinois State, sure, on the road. Yeah, you're going to do that. Indiana State, yeah, you're going to, now I would have been interested today to see what would have happened if that second half hadn't been delayed for 5 hours, but I still think they win that game, and probably comfortably.
Oh, yeah.
Southern Illinois in the Fargo Dome, the moment that you're one turnover away from breaking their back. Yep. And again, this game also being in Brookings matters. This is a team that's won 32 in a row. I know there'll be a healthy contingent. 33, my mistake. Yeah, forgot to add the last one.
Yep.
I know there's going to be a healthy contingent of Bison fans. They'll fill their section. It'll be one of the bigger, but compared to what it used to be, and of course, we remember the last time game day was here, that was the Bison fans, we're going to take over Brookings. That didn't happen. They had a nice amount of people, but that was a Jackrabbit game day. The stadium was, ever since the last time I can really remember that I'm like, man, there's a lot of NDSU fans in this barn. Was probably the last Coughlin game in 2015. Was ironically the last night game in 2015. So it matters that it's in Brookings. I think the Jacks do need to get off to a good start because we've seen that historically. If that's just easy. That's easy thing to say, but like I said, that gets into my point that I made a while ago. The Bison have had some sluggish starts. Now they're going to be tuned up for this game. Both teams will be. But they cannot, if they think they can go into Brookings and get down a touchdown or two, I don't think that's going to play well. I'll put it like that.
Right. To anyone who thinks 50 points by anybody is going to be scored, that's utter nonsense. The most points scored since 2001, and that's a match, was 45 points by SDSU in Frisco, Texas for the national title game. I do want to point out Damon Becker, great comment. He says, I think one glaring challenge NDSU will face is they have not seen anything like the chain gang yet. They have not had to be worried about a D tackle whose breath smells like curly fries and does the sexy Dexy once a drive.
Well, on a serious note, when I watched them, Indiana State was getting pressure on Cole Payton. Like that was I didn't see as much of the second half because again, 5-hour delay, right, other things. But when I was watching in that first half, it wasn't just, the Bison are playing terribly. And, again, they were. And I do think, same as SDSU, they were looking ahead and playing down a bit. But they were getting – I thought to myself, I'm like, if the Jacks can get pressure, they're going to have a shot. They're going to have Cole Payton's probably going to see more pressure against SDSU than he's seen against most of what he's faced this year.
Yeah. This is what makes this game beautiful, right? I know you said, and I've seen it said by like NEC fan account, like, well, the marker shouldn't just be for who wins the conference. It should be like for who makes the playoffs. Well, just because your ass hurt because your conference doesn't get auto bids because it's weaker than, well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but just because it's weak, doesn't mean this game doesn't mean the world. This is the most impactful rivalry, the most important and the largest, sorry, Montana fans, in the country. It is one of the largest rivalries in all of the collegiate football world. It is ranked on multiple different sites, ESPN, everywhere else, up amongst the pantheon of great rivalries that are in the FBS. This is such a phenomenal rivalry. And why is that? Well, let's just say this. One score game, not one score game, not one score game, one score, not one score, like these games are all close. And I bet you if you went back, I would love to go back at minimum back until 2016, just looking at the stuff going on the Marker wiki page, right? You have to go to at least 2016 for the regular season matchup for the first time the Marker was not a top 10 matchup for every game. It has been at least a ranked matchup for way longer than that. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy how big this game is just because of the consistency of the teams and the level that they are at. There is no rivalry. Alabama, Georgia, I don't give a shit. None of them match what is on the line every time as far as ranked matchups as what the Dakota Marker has for the last 15, 20 years. I guarantee it. I don't have to look it up. I'm right. It's not. I am. I just am. Georgia has not been a top 25 team for the last 25 years, right? They ebb and flow because that's the way life works, right? This has been consistently an incredible, unbelievable matchup every time. I cannot wait. That being said, like what we talked about, this is going to be so fun. This is going to be so fun. You've got an incredible quarterback in Cole Payton who, if you let him get out of the pocket at all, he's getting 20 yards. He is the quintessential NDSU heartbreaker. 3rd and 15. We finally got him. He runs for 18, 20 yards, and all of a sudden it's first down again, and you're starting back over. Miserable. You've got great wide receivers on that team. You've got great wide receivers on the SDSU team. I would argue far underrated, especially compared to NDSU's wide receivers. I mean, Lofton Ogroski is incredible, but Bollock is phenomenal. Graham Goring is really coming into his own. You've got
Smith,
a lot of
watch out.
Jack Smith is starting to make an appearance. He got another touchdown today. 2 touchdowns. You're right. Yeah, 2 touchdowns for him today. You've suddenly got these receivers coming out of the woodwork for SDSU. If Chase, now this is obviously a very different conversation if
Chase Mason
can't go. If Chase Mason can't go, then SDSU is not just the underdogs. They are decided underdogs by probably 10 to 15 points. That's just what the odd makers are going to put it at. I promise you, because that's just the way it is. Now, are the 605 Hogs capable of making this a close game with Julius Loffridge and Johnson and, Bassinger and all those guys? For sure. But boy, that's going to be a tough road to hoe. Now, I will say this. I think Luke Marble has a better arm and a better deep ball than Heidi did for those matchups. I'm not saying it's not compared to Mark or any of these greats, but that team that year when Keaton Heidi came in just had no threat down the field because Heidi just couldn't throw that ball. He was great and deadly accurate underneath and in close coverage, and that got him through a couple of games. But Luke Marble has the capability of going deep.
Well, and the thing about the Heidi game was the Heidi game.
Yeah.
The thing about that was we hadn't even. I think he'd maybe gotten some mop-up duty. We hadn't even seen him to that point, really, because they went with Cannon Nelson, the Mitchell native. He was the immediate backup. They brought him in. Again, he did his time. He was a good academic kid, good kid, but he was more of a runner, and they weren't getting anything with him against that Bison defense. And it was it's kind of the fact that game remained close. Yeah, I agree that we're not going to know. We'll probably know. Yeah. And that might serve SDSU a little better because then you at least do plant a seed of doubt. If I had to bet, again, I don't know how serious that injury is, and I hate to speculate. I feel like if it were super serious, he wouldn't have been on that sideline. He wouldn't have been, but you never know.
Well, he'd have been a boot. He'd have been on crutches, whatever.
Yeah,
I think the door is open to him potentially playing this game, depending on how the week goes.
But the point is now you planted that seed of doubt, at least, especially if you do end up having to play Marble. There goes my light. I'll get it back on here. I'm in the darkness. The darkness is encroaching on NDSU.
The voice of the shadows.
The voice you cannot escape. The darkness is coming for you, Bison. You're lost. Your defeat is coming. Your precious. Well, they're probably still gonna have home field advantage even if they lose this game. Maybe they'll lose. Maybe they'll lose to the effing Hawks too. That'd be kind of funny. But yeah. The point being, now you at least plant that the seed of doubt in Tim Polisek's mind, in their mind of, okay, now we have to prepare for 2 different looks. Because obviously Luke Marble also he's not really a runner. He's not going to run the ball very much. So you have to prepare for them with Chase Mason, and you have to prepare for them with Luke Marble. And yeah, to that guy's point, they're going to wait until 6:55 or as long as they can. Even if Chase is good to go, even if they know Chase is good to go tomorrow, like they're like, oh, it was good. It was turf toe. He sprained an ankle. It's nothing serious. The doctor gives him an okay. Dan's going to play this thing out till 6:55 and and try and keep that place under lock and key because he wants to keep Tim Polisek guessing. And that's exactly why, that's some of the fun of why these coaching, these injury reports should probably stay confidential because we get that now that it is a bit of a chess match here. And that is maybe the one advantage. If you're right, if Luke Marble has to play, then they are a decided underdog. But I don't think they showed anything to. They can also go into the bag of tricks a little more because again, I think they were probably pretty basic with what they had today with Luke. If they know he's going to be the quarterback, they can kind of start to work in a game plan for him, figure out some trick stuff. So you can't just say that, we saw the tape of Murray State. We know what they're going to do if Luke Marble's the quarterback. It's going to be a different look if they know that he's going to be in that game. And, the other half of it, too, is they might even try and work him in a little bit anyway, because we don't know if Mason's a little bit hobbled still and he plays. They still might have to give him a blow or two here and there. So, yeah, I do agree. It would, on the surface, it's not a good thing if Mason plays. Mason doesn't play, but we saw it a couple of years ago with Heidi. He did kind of give them when he came in. The Bison had not seen him at all, and it was a different look that they were not ready for, and he was able to get them into the end zone and tie that game up. And if he doesn't make one bad throw, which frankly you would expect from a true freshman, it was a true freshman mistake. He almost helped them win that game. It would have been one of the most remarkable wins we've ever seen in this series. So yeah, sometimes having that, so the element of doubt is the element of surprise here. And if they do have to go with Marble, I think you're going to see a much different looking game plan than what you saw today, because they didn't really have time to craft a game plan. They had to kind of stick with what they already had.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be, quick one from Zach McKinnell, because he's got his show. He says, love making predictions without injury intel. Don't hold it against me because I can't pick SDSU without Chase at QB. Listen, Zach, I know you're excited. You get to use this as a cover and just say, I'm picking NDSU because I don't know if Chase is playing. And not have to come out and say, well, I would have picked SDSU. It's okay. I got to give you a hard time. The stakes of this game, they're always huge, right? In the last 4 or 5 years, it's been for a top 2 seed. Really going back longer than that, even especially as long as the teams hold serve. But night game in Brookings hasn't had a marker matchup, and boy, it's been forever. I would love to know when the last one of those was.
2015.
It was 2015?
2015 in Brookings. That was not even Dana J. It was Coughlin alumni.
Yes.
And that was the last time, too, that the marker game really wasn't competitive, at least because they lost that game 28-7. Carson Wentz kind of went off on them, but they, that was obviously a bit of a weird SDSU season anyway. That was Zach Lujan's last game as the starter. He kind of got hurt in that. We talk about injuries. He got hurt. Nobody really knew it. Late in that game, he got hurt. Then the next week against Indiana State at home, Taryn Christian got the start as a true freshman. They had to pull his red shirt. Yep. And, that was the start of a pretty legendary career, obviously. But, and that was also game 2, I think, where Dallas Goddard, I think he might have actually caught his first career touch. It was in garbage time because I think they were down 28-0, but I think that was his first career touchdown catch in that game. And that was the old Coughlin. They were renovating it. They had the horseshoe was built, but the old stands were still up.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's a throwback. Adam Harm says, anyone besides Kenkel have friends that think it's a good idea to have a fall wedding on the last Saturday in October and thus will have guests glued to their phones during the reception? That is brutal. I feel so bad for Alex and his family, his wife, everybody who has to go, because it's not like, oh, it's my second cousin. Like, it's his brother or his wife's brother. It's like you can't not go. I've lived that a little bit. I wasn't able to make the 2019 game. It wasn't because of it wasn't because of a wedding. My dad was in the hospital at the time, so I missed game day and all that stuff. So I know that feeling. I'm gutted for that guy, man. That's a brutal one. At least the hospital, you can be like, well, this is important. Not saying the wedding isn't important, but that's brutal. And yeah, I mean, even for the wedding, oh God, Adam's in a different wedding. even if you're running the wedding, like Adam's right. Like that whole wedding's going to be watching their phones. Like at the reception, I'm not dancing.
Well, at least it's
I'm
not
not
during. At least the
dancing.
game's not during
No.
the day. At least the game's not during the day. So then you'd really like literally
Right. The
during the wedding,
ceremony
you
is
would have your
okay.
yeah.
Right. But your ceremony, your reception, that's good. You might as well just roll in a 65-inch TV by the tables and let everybody watch that because they're just going to be doing it on their phones anyways. And you know what? If you're one of these, well, they're more important than you, it's their only time. They didn't have to do that. That was their choice. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I know
this
from experience that that wedding reception they really get into that. Like, depending. Hopefully the bride is okay. Yeah, hopefully the bride gets it because that's the one that they're always like they want the wedding reception to be perfect, and I'm like,
sorry, you
yeah, that
picked
one
this weekend,
you
sweetheart.
kind of missed the boat on that one.
I mean, look, I'm not
There's a
out
reason
here
people don't
trying
have
to
weddings
ruin
on
your
the
day.
Super Bowl.
Right. This is brutal. I mean, this is I mean, at this point this has become the game between the states at this point too. Zach McKinnell says, I'm not sure if I like my brother-in-law enough to skip that game for a wedding. Hopefully that means Zach McKinnell's coming up for that game. And that'd be awesome. Love to have you up, buddy. I'm just throwing that out there. That's a long way from Alabama. But man,
Bama.
oh my God. We're gonna have, and especially if game day shows up and then a night game,
Yes,
the
let's.
energy in that stadium.
Well, hey, if game day shows
Oh,
up, why
oh,
not just put
oh,
the thing on
oh.
ABC? Why not just much as
Well,
I don't necessarily like to give the too much props to my former employer because they would love it if it were on ABC, but
right.
why not just put it on ABC? That won't happen realistically, but at
How
that
would
point
that?
we might as
Could you
well.
imagine that audible? Kirk Herbstreit just, you know what? I'm staying in Brookings, and he hops on that call, and they option it to ABC, but because the last game, right, had game day, or the last time game day was there, it was an afternoon game. So a lot of your people missed tailgating because they were at game day. Well, it's a night game. Tailgating doesn't start until 2. And before people get mad, for the love of God, as your resident king of complaining about when tailgating starts and being mad about it, they are still giving us the full tailgating time allotment. They are not shorting us. Yes, I would love for them to give us some extra hours for a big game like this. It is not a university decision that they're able to do. They can't just decide to go, we're letting them go all day today. That's a Board of Regents thing because it involves alcohol on campus. And that's the way it goes. And it sucks. I wish it started at 10. But let's not crucify the university here. If you want that change made, find the people who are Board of Regents people and shoot them some emails. Be like, hey, what's the deal, guys? I'm gonna hear about that if people do that. I'm telling you, I will hear about that.
Well, I mean, let's open the elephant that's in the room right now, or the car, I guess, in the middle of nowhere. College game day. Are we getting the encore? Again, I said this literally an hour ago, so we should probably wrap this up in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But we can probably go longer. Yeah. I don't know what the numbers are like in terms of who's still with us at nearly 1:30.
50 people. Y'all are maniacs. I love you all.
And me as well. Thank you. I know somebody made the point that the last time our UTL, well, I can promise you, if we have game day and then I'm here for that early, I mean, I don't know what my official work capacity will be. I'm definitely going to come because it's game day again, once in a lifetime thing. Not sure if, I'm guessing maybe Forum and Sioux Falls Live might want my assistance for some things. I've got a feature, by the way, coming out this week on Midwest Sports Plus. 2 related ones coming up on SDSU. I think that people are going to like. So keep your eyes out for that. It's ironically, it's on the trainer for SDSU, Charlie Miller. So
really,
he's going to have to do his work. He'll be a bit of a star this week, one way or the other. Did not anticipate that. Oh, hey, we changed the graphic. Nice.
Just for funsies.
Beautiful. But yeah, I'll have that story coming out here this week. So just keep an eye out. It'll be out this week, and I'll pass along. The appropriate people will do the advertising. But and then I don't want to spoil the other one. It's an SDSU adjacent. You'll see it in another week. It'll be pretty good. But yeah. I mean, and I was kidding about the ABC guys. The only way ABC is televising an FCS game is if it's the FCS semifinals, which is part of the playoff package, and I think that's actually been cut down to one game this year as opposed to the two, which kind of stinks. But whatever. One game would be nice either way. But yeah, I think college. Somebody had mentioned earlier that the last time, normally College Game Day does make the announcements of where they're heading next week, the Saturday night. I think somebody had said that the last time they thought it had taken this long was when they came here in 2019. I'm not sure about that because I do remember when we thought there was a chance it was going to happen with SDSU USD in 2023, they waited till Sunday then. So there have been times where they've gone into Sunday. But I think it is a good sign. I'd love it to happen. Not just because my fat head was, not just because Max Sauer and the guys put my fat head on game day, and I'm hoping that happens again. And contrary to what Marco and some of the people I worked with at the time thought, I didn't pay anybody to do that. I was as surprised as my wife and everybody I knew to see my giant face on game day. First, when I pulled up into the parking lot that morning, and then that they literally held the thing up the whole day. So, I'd love it to happen again. Hell, get a picture of my son and do that too if somebody wants to. That'd be even better. But I think the problem from a game standpoint, I don't think there's any question it's the best game at any level next week. I mean, even the FBS slate is pretty thin, and the only game that I could have seen them really going to was LSU and Texas A&M, and you had LSU losing, and Texas A&M damn near did as well. They could still go to that because Kyle Field, Texas A&M. I mean, they're kind of the biggest problem you have now between then and 2019. There are two of them. One of them is the realignment has just thrown everything into a different orbit. They're so beholden to the SEC and the Big Ten. Now they're also competing with. They've got that Big Noon Fox show, so they've got actual competition now. I don't remember if Big Noon was there in 2019 or not, but it wasn't certainly much of a factor yet. But they've got so many contracts running through that. Those are the bigger, quote-unquote, ratings games. I think that makes it harder than it did in 2019. The second thing, and I've mentioned this more prominently, and it flies under the radar, and it's a little more inside shop, but they've had a lot of staff changes since 2019. Mm-hmm. The one that's most prominent was they had a guy by the name of, and yeah, Zach's mentioning that there, Vandy in Missouri, another example, SEC. And it'd be ironic because I think that game's at Vanderbilt, isn't it?
Yes, I have no idea.
It'd be a little ironic since that's where the FCS title game is going to be,
Right.
But I mean, there's been a lot of staff changes at ESPN. Obviously, since the pandemic hit, that changed everything. The most notable one I've mentioned a few times is they had a producer by the name of Lee Fitting, who I believe was actually an FCS guy. I think he graduated from like James Madison or something when they were FCS.
Guy.
Yep. And he always kind of pushed them to go to a smaller school, not just an FCS, but I think he pushed them to go to a Division II or Division III one occasionally. Mm-hmm. He was the one who really said, okay, we can't, every now and then we got to go somewhere small and off the beaten path. Well, he got, I don't know if there, I still don't know. I think there was like some maybe inappropriate stuff that happened, but either way, he left. That voice is gone. So that hurts. But they've also had, as people have known, if you followed the industry, a lot of layoffs over the years. They don't have, I think, the same amount of staff running the show that they did in 2019. So I think, and I know this was something, I think going to a smaller venue, going to a place that's a little harder to fly, I just don't know that they have the same level of staff to do it. And it's easier for them to go to these bigger areas where they can get in. They don't have as much setup to do. So I don't know. I hope it happens. I'd love to see it again. Any kind of publicity you can get for either of those schools, you take it and you run to the bank.
Oh yeah.
But it's and ironically, and I said this earlier today on Twitter and X, that if you blindfolded me in 2019, on like October 18 and said, hey, College Game Day is coming to Brookings on either 2025 or 2019,
Yep.
I would have taken this year because SDSU's leveled up in the years since. They've won the national. They're more compelling to me now than they were in 2019. They mainly kind of did the rivalry back then, and SDSU was rising, but now it's like they've leveled up. They've won their national titles. It's more compelling to me now to bring them here when these programs are nearly even. But right. I just think, unfortunately, so much has happened in the world and in the industry and with ESPN. It's tougher, but I don't think it's impossible. As I've said several times, Vermillion with SDSU USD was an option. We know they had booked rooms down in Sioux City, so it was on the list. They've considered it before. It wasn't that long ago. They went to Montana State. It's not impossible. And, the fact this game is going to be on an ESPN platform is going to help even more so than it did a couple of years ago. That's no diss on Midco, but it does help. They can actually say, hey, this is on our ESPN platform. And the other thing that will play a role in this, and I know some people aren't going to like to hear this, but if they do come, you can bet your bottom dollar there will be a lot of talk about whether these programs should be in the FBS. That will be a running storyline that will go through, whether people like to hear that or not. That will be a factor. I'll just leave it at that. And I think that's because they look for storylines in this. And believe me, if either one of these schools ever does end up in the again, I've said before, we've said it before, I think eventually there's going to be a whole different look to college football, yada, yada, yada. These programs will be playing up at a higher level sooner or later. But if it ends up being sooner, as in the next couple of years, I would think ESPN has a little influence. They typically have a little bit of influence on things. This might be another sign that maybe this is going to happen fairly soon if they're coming back here. Because it would be pretty tough for some of these conferences to ignore ESPN coming back to Brookings, South Dakota, and featuring these two teams twice in 6 years, when a lot of these other teams throughout the Mountain West have never even sniffed College Game Day. It's getting to the point where it's like, okay, I know their logic is always, well, it's market share, and we gotta reach. I mean, that's part of the reason Northern Illinois is going to the Mountain West, because they get into Chicago. Well, nobody in Chicago gives a damn about them. But all of a sudden, hey, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, they're starting to get a little bit bigger brand than just their markets alone. That's a more marketable thing for us to bring into a conference than somebody who is on in a larger market, but nobody watches them. They will pull in viewers because they've been so good. Their rivalry alone will pull in people who aren't from there. It's going to pull in more viewers than Northern Illinois playing Nevada Reno. So that's my long-winded answer. Right. I don't expect it to happen, but the longer there is no news, the longer we're waiting.
Right.
There's a heartbeat. I'll just leave it at that.
I might have to turn notifications on, and I count me as the guy who was like, it's never going to happen, because somebody asked, when's the last time that game day was at a non-SEC team or P4 team, A4, whatever the hell you want to call them. It's been more than a minute, brother. I don't know the exact, but it's been a while, and it's part of my pessimism, but it's on the list. And if it happens, I will say this, and sympathy to Adam and to Alex who can't make it, and there's going to be people who can't make it, and it's totally understandable. But you better go now, because the way college football is going, media is going, all of those things, college game day in a small school setting, an FCS, a non-A4 school setting, is getting rarer than hen's teeth, as they like to say. I'm pretty sure I stole that one from Kevin Marshall, but rarer than hen's teeth. It's not happening anymore, and cherish the hell out of it. Last FCS game was the 22 Brawl of the Wild. It doesn't happen to G5 schools almost ever. We better cherish it if it does happen, because it's just not much of a thing anymore that happens. And beyond that, I mean, really, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I'll say too, just cherish the fact this is going to be. We don't yet know what ESPN network. Hopefully it's on ESPN2 again, because that gets the bigger viewership than ESPNU. And I think it will be. I think it did good numbers last year when it was on ESPN2, and we know the semifinals last year did good numbers. But cherish the fact you're getting a 7:00 primetime game on a national television network, and from Brookings, South Dakota, no less. Because, look, to the same point, like, let's say, whatever happens here in the next 10, 15 years, especially if they do end up, especially if it happens soon, if they were to go to the FBS, there's no guarantee they're going to get this kind of window ever again. I mean, this is part of the advantage of being right now where they are. These are the two biggest brands in their division. They get a little leeway, if they're if they both become just another cog in the vast world of FBS, it's going to get a little tougher maybe to carve out that same niche, that same 7:00 thing. So, I mean, it's not a guarantee, even if they move up to the next level or whatever the next level becomes. Not a guarantee you're going to get a 7:00 game on a major national network to showcase this rivalry and showcase your university.
Yep, 100%. And to be honest with that, I think, Borg, we need to make sure your battery doesn't die. I got to go to bed. It's almost getting close to 2. Thank you, everybody who's joined us tonight. We surely appreciate it. We got 57. How do we have more people? It's 1:40 in the morning, you maniacs. I love you all.
I think people are excited for this.
Incredible.
They're excited for this marker game. We'll figure out what the plan is next week when we get to next week. We don't know, guys.
Yep. Yeah, as far as this show,
we're all going to be there.
It's in God's hands.
Maybe we'll, I have a feeling if they win the marker, we'll probably take a live photo or something, and especially if they win, just something nice. But if I had to guess at this point, we're probably doing a Sunday show next week. But we'll see. It depends. The same. That was the nighttime starts, as we learned last year when they had the NDSU and the SDSU game there. This is a ride, and especially if game day is here, it's going to be a ride times 10,000. So keep an eye on your phones tomorrow. Just keep an eye on everything, and we'll all have you covered. Jackrabbit Illustrated, and I also say Sioux Falls Live, Midwest Sports Plus, Forum Communications. They'll keep it covered on that end, and we will be back here when we're back here next week, and we'll have a lot to talk about. So, thank you for joining me in the middle of nowhere.
All right, take it easy, guys. If you do feel so inclined, subscribe, like, whatever, help us continue doing whatever this nonsense is. And y'all have a good night. We'll see you all week.
Peace.